Final hour overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, Jason Strudwick. We got our best bets later in the hour. Strud or Dud will continue. We got a lot of Canadian teams in action tonight. The Oilers are not one of them, and their head coach, Kris Knoblauch, will join us here in a few moments. They got a big one tomorrow with the Stars in town, Strud. That's a big, big game.
It's a biggie. And listen, the Stars are a really good team. Obviously, the addition of Mikko Rantanen, and then they fly to Seattle, play them on Thursday, and then they play Calgary on Saturday, a team that's fighting for their lives. So, tough stretch here, especially when you consider you don't have your two best players.
Yeah, and we'll ask Knoblock about that. Obviously, ideally you have Leon playing, you have McDavid playing, but they're out, they're injured. It's already been determined they're not likely to play this week. And other guys stepped up over the weekend. And, is there possibly a silver lining there that Nugent Hopkins finds a different role? Because he's been playing up the middle of the ice a little bit before, right, Strud? Like, they kind of moved him around a little bit. He's been on the wing with McDavid a lot, but also he's capable of moving up and down the middle of the ice and move Henrique up and put some more emphasis on a healthy defense for the first time in a long time. And it feels like a big, big opportunity for guys that know where they land in the pecking order. When McDavid and Draisaitl return, everyone's going to filter back into their position. But I think this can be very beneficial for the Oilers. Yeah,
in a weird way. Like, you'd never not want to have your top two players in. But since it's happening, how can you help your team? And, you highlighted Nugent Hopkins. I think he's got 9 points his last 4 games. Jeff Skinner, who's constantly a guy trying to work his way back into a top 6 role, and he's playing well. We got Henrique in there. Then on the back end, they are healthy for the first time. I think even Klimberg's able to play. So everyone's going to get a lot more minutes and then get some power play minutes that they maybe don't normally see. And when you're an offensive player, you want those power play minutes to kind of get your beat wet and feel good about yourself.
Yeah. And Evander Kane looks like he's getting real close, doesn't he? Like, what do you see happening there with Kane?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I think that he's a great athlete. The challenge is, he hasn't done a lot. He hasn't been able to do anything really physical as far as, getting in shape or staying in shape because of the challenges he had with some injuries and then the subsequent surgeries. So here he is trying to figure out what does that look like, and then how does he get back in shape? It's one thing to get into shape where you can go down to Cancun and look decent for your Instagram pictures. It's a whole nother to look great as you're trying to play ready hockey and be battling in maybe the first or second round of the playoffs. And I think that's where that challenge is going to be for Kane to get to that level. And he knows what it feels like. But can he do it in 6-8 weeks? I'm not sure.
Yeah, then that's the question. Like, come playoff time, the intensity is so much higher, and he's used to it, but he's never been in a situation like this. Very few athletes ever have been, where you literally don't have a camp, don't play any regular season games, and then immediately jump in for a playoff game. That's asking a lot out of an athlete, and especially if you're looking for him to have an impact or play with Draisaitl, or whatever it might be on that second line, third line. It may be, can you give me 7 or 8 minutes on the fourth line? Can you give me a little bit of energy? Can you pair up with a guy like Corey Perry, run roughshod for a few minutes on 5-on-5 and get off the ice? I'm curious how Knoblock would answer that. We'll ask Kris in a few moments. And, a constant theme on the show today has been about, what is more important down the stretch, and can you marry the two? Like, your points, I think, have been well made, and I would concur with them. I think most people would. You want to be informed. You want to be playing the way you're supposed to be playing. Wins and losses, ideally you win, maybe you lose, whatever. But if you feel good about special teams, about the way your lines match up, the way everyone's playing, health, etc., that obviously is ideal come playoff time. But there are other carrots that are out there that you can go chase. The Leafs are chasing home ice. They're chasing their division. The Jets are chasing the President's Trophy. And the Oilers are chasing home ice. And I don't know if it's reasonable for them to catch Vegas anymore, especially with the injuries. They're in Vegas, I think, in a week or two. They still play Vegas one more time. But as of now, LA would have home ice. And I don't know. I don't know where you stand on that, Strud. Like, I'm not, does it matter as much at Edmonton? Like, where does that rank in terms of priorities? If you're the Oilers, if you're Kris Knoblauch, the idea of at least trying to secure home ice in the first round, even if you are that 2 seed.
Any of the coaches or players, I wonder if they ever think, if we were first in the league last year and had home ice through the whole playoffs, do we have a Stanley Cup trophy in our house?
Yeah.
Like I truly wonder that. And they made it hard on themselves, and they had and the Stanley Cup isn't supposed to be easy, winning it. But I often wonder, what do they think that, man, if we could have finished higher up? So now it is going to be a challenge without Connor and Leon both in their lineup. Doesn't make it impossible. Makes it a challenge, though, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely does. And again, LA, like, they're great at home too this year, right? Like, they do not lose games at Crypto.com. Is that what it's called? Crypto.com Arena. Who signed off on that? Like, Staples was just a great handle, Strud. You would have played at Staples.
Yeah, scored my first goal there. No, the big guys show up in LA, right?
That's the big guys show up in LA.
That's what I was told.
LA and New York. And you're a Ranger alum, and you scored your first goal in LA. You showed up on the coast. Yeah, that's all that matters. Oilers back in action tomorrow night with Dallas in town. It's a big, big game tomorrow night, and we are welcomed now by their head coach. Here's Kris Knoblauch. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. Appreciate it. And obviously, we've been discussing your team a lot lately, really all season. But with Connor out, with Leon out, your team responded really well over the weekend with the absence of those two guys, your two best players, your two leaders. I'm curious how you see it. Is it possible this is a silver lining for other guys? Obviously you'd prefer Connor and Leon to be playing, but you allow other guys to elevate and maybe have a little bit more skin in the game. Could that benefit your team come playoff time, the fact that these guys are out right now and other guys have to step up?
Well, absolutely. We're trying to look at as many positives as possible. You never want to lose those two guys, and winning games every night is more difficult when they're not playing. But I think in the long run, I think it's good for our team. Allows other guys more opportunities to find their game. We've got some guys that probably haven't played as well as we expected or they expected. And here's an excellent opportunity when those two big guys out of the lineup, just everyone's role is increased, their ice time is more, and it's a lot easier way for them to find their game and contribute more.
Chris, obviously Connor and Leon have a massive presence on that team and specifically on the power play. So what is the conversation like between you and the other coaches when you now have to, figure out a new zone entry or new places for two guys on the power play? It's been so good for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. The power play has been run through those two, and those two have been, Connor pretty much the disher, the playmaker on that, and Leon with so many power play goals. But, I feel that we've got a lot of power play quality guys, and a lot of guys who've been on first units for many years and haven't been really part of it this year. Two guys I'm thinking about are like Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner. Those two guys have been good power play guys, but have been kind of a really insignificant role with us. So here's their opportunity to, they were on our first unit power play the other night, and no, they're not going to replace and be as good as Connor and Leon, but they are pretty good power play guys, and it was nice to see those guys. Henrique, another guy who's been good on the power play, he scored the other night. So, they're not as good as those other two, but they are pretty good quality NHL power play guys. Here's their opportunity to contribute more in that area.
Speaking of, silver linings, we were asking, outwardly in terms of Leon and Connor, the idea of other guys stepping up. What about in terms of what they're going through right now? They're obviously fighting injury by all accounts based on, the reporting, and I believe what you've been saying with the media. It doesn't sound like you guys are overly concerned come playoff time that these are injuries you guys that both players should be able to rehab through and feel good about themselves once they do return. But the idea of them getting some rest, do you see any benefit to that? Do you think that could be a boost for both players come playoff time?
It all depends on how long those injuries hold them out. If they're held out right up until the playoffs, for them first game and after a few weeks and it's a playoff game, that's probably not beneficial. Now, do we think we're going to get to that point? No. I think the rest is good. I think right now it's, difficult for us. It makes us harder to win hockey games, but I think in the long run, it's good for our team. One, those other guys we mentioned before are getting more opportunities to find their game and really contribute. And then Connor and Leon getting a little break and hopefully being well rested for the playoff run. Leon will definitely benefit from this, but probably no more anybody than Connor because of how many minutes he plays in the regular season each game, and he didn't get a break in February like almost everyone else did. So, I think it would be beneficial for him.
Kris, you now have 8 defensemen that I believe are healthy. How do you balance, keeping everyone involved in playing some games, but also trying to get some continuity as you head through the stretch drive and into the playoffs?
That makes it a little more difficult. And, through the playoffs or regular season, you always have injuries. And, ironically, last year and even this year, we've been very fortunate not to have many injuries on the back end. And right now, we feel that we've got our 5 guys that we're going to be playing regularly in their positions. And then probably just rotating our 6th defenseman, who's, one of those 3 right-handed defensemen. And so it's not like we're disrupting it completely. We've got our pairs, and guys are going to be playing regularly together. There is some fluctuation, but not very much. And I think just with where they're slotted in, and guys aren't necessarily moving from left to right and back and forth, it's, I don't think it's that much of an adjustment for anybody.
Chatting with Kris Knoblauch, head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. Oilers Stars tomorrow night. We were referencing Evander Kane. We've seen some video of him practicing, and he's obviously been out all year, and he had the injury, he had the surgeries. Still no clarity necessarily on when he'll be at 100% healthy and prepared to play. But we asked you earlier the idea of guys being injured like a Connor, like a Leon, and how difficult it can be if they miss a few weeks and try to jump on a moving train come playoff time. How larger is the gap if you consider Evander's scenario? Like if he's 100% ready to go come game 1, do you picture yourself being comfortable playing him, and how much can you expect out of him?
Well, we all know how good Evander is and what a quality player he is, especially in the playoffs when things are more physical and areas just try and score more difficult. Those 2 things are very important to the playoff scoring and physical play. So if Evander's available, healthy to play, I think he'd be able to help us in some way. Now, there's been, a long stretch that he hasn't played, and it'll come down to how does he look in practice? How is he, how is he moving? How is his skill? Those are reps, give the guys confidence or coaches confidence to put him in. But hopefully the long run, the surgeries and the time off has been good for him, and he's able to come and help us play. And, there's going to be some rust, but I would think that down the long run, after a little bit of time, he'd be able to help this team win some hockey games.
Kris, your trade deadline acquisition, Trent Frederick's a little bit different situation. He hasn't played with the Oilers before. Are there ways you can support him and kind of get him thinking about, how he might play with a certain center or different centers or different situations to kind of help him hit the ground a little bit quicker running as you get closer and closer to his time to return?
Yeah, it's going to be it'd be nice to have Trent back with us to join us. Obviously, we've seen him for a few weeks now, but it'd be nice on the ice. And I think he's itching to get out there. He's getting closer and closer. He's been on the ice for some very, very light skates on his own. And we're hoping within the next week or maybe a little bit longer that he's joining the team and having actual practices. But where he fits in the lineup, it could be anywhere from first to the third line, playing any position, left wing, center, right wing, and that's something he's been very comfortable doing in the past. I know he's played a lot of times in the center. I was having a conversation with him, and he just typically was used at center in the playoffs through his career, more right wing. This year he's been more left wing, so it's nice having the versatility of a player. From a coaching standpoint, being able to move guys up and down, and he's able to do that. So exactly where he fits in the lineup, time will tell. We got to find out exactly how things are going, when Leon and Connor are returning, how are the lines playing, like the Nugent Hopkins and Pot Colson and Victor Arvidsson line has been so good. Is it going to continue to play like that? And then it gives us some other options with other lines. So I don't know. It's too early to tell exactly where he's going to fit in.
With Kris Knoblauch, head coach of the Oilers, last year you guys obviously had an incredible stretch run when you took over behind the bench. You get all the way to Game 7 of a Cup final. I'm curious, what your messaging has been this year in terms of drawing off last season. Have you done that at all? Do you intend on doing that come the playoffs, or are you a clean slate guy and you've tried to just push the past behind you and new season, new history, and whatever happens? How do you approach the history of the team and specifically what happened last year and apply it to this year?
I think that last year everyone knows what happened, and obviously it was a fairly successful run. Obviously it wasn't the ultimate, but I think the most important thing for our team was to turn the page and move on from last year because of it's going to be a different story. We've got a different team. We're going to have different obstacles. Other teams have been getting better in certain areas, and we've got numerous players that weren't with us last year. So, I think the run last year was good. That'll help us in the future just through adversity and being able to overcome a lot of obstacles because we've got the confidence to know that we can do it. But I don't know. I don't feel comfortable comparing last year's team to this year just because there's so many things that have changed.
Kris, you're now going into your second playoff run, and what did you learn about yourself and how you kind of manage those emotions and those decisions now going to the second, what will be a playoff run for you in the NHL?
Just trying to stay in the moment as much as possible and use your resources to help make a lot of decisions, and a lot of planning goes into it. Where during those games they get a little stressful, and there's a lot riding on certain games. Whether it's a Game 7 against Vancouver or Game 6, we're holding on against Dallas, so we don't have to go back to Dallas. There's a lot of things, and I think just being prepared for those situations. And I think the best way to get prepared is just communicate with my players, and more importantly, even my the coaching staff, on knowing what what the pre-scout is, what the other team's looking to do, what are their strengths, what are we looking to do, and staying one ahead of the other team, and possibly any adjustments they're going to make. How are we going to react to that? So I think the more conversations you have, and a lot happens in the coach's room in between games that help you get prepared for those. And then also, and and I talked about being prepared, but you can also be over prepared. Well, maybe not so much on the coaching side of it, but for the players, I think it's very important for the players to play their best, that they're free and they're not overburdened with so much information, because ultimately it comes down to them being on the ice and being able to play on their instincts. And if you're over coaching, it makes it harder for the players to play their best.
Have you had any players at any point in your career, NHL, American League, OHL, whatever, actually push back on you on that front and say, I don't need to know that, or it's overload at this point? Like, have you had any experiences like that?
No, I don't think I've ever had a player say, this is too much, because I think it'd be
it may not. You may not respond well to it.
The coach, the player would be like, I'm not that interested in this, and this doesn't mean very much to me. I just know that you just see the players, and it's paralysis by analysis,
right.
Where just so much information. Sometimes, I think it's good for the players to feel good and just play on their instincts and not be overburdened. And I think it's important that the players know exactly some tendencies of the other team. I've seen other coaches put together playbooks on just all information on other players, and I think it's good to know the team and who you're playing, but you get down to the details on a defenseman doesn't pivot well on the right opposed to his left side, and he likes to shoot this spot. He might do it sometimes, and I don't know. I remember seeing as coaching junior, and I remember seeing playoffs from an opposing team. And I was looking at this information for each of our players. I was like, I don't even know that information about my players. I've coached them all year.
Yeah.
So I'm not even sure any of this is true. And here you are giving this to your players. So I just think it's their information is good to give the players, but you got to be careful how much you're giving it to them.
Yeah, especially in the OHL. I mean, guys aren't reading that stuff in the O. Like, there's no chance they were reading all that information. No chance. Well, and I guess I'll get you out of here with a question in line with that thinking in terms of, I've asked coaches before, how do you juggle staying in the moment but also being aware that your players might be scoreboard watching or might realize, okay, there's different goals in mind. And you guys are currently in a race. You can still win the division, certainly home ice. You're right there with LA. You're 5 points back of Vegas. You still play Vegas again. How do you juggle that, Kris, in terms of, I'm sure you'd prefer home ice. I'm sure you'd prefer to win your division. Why wouldn't you? But at the same time, making sure that your players and your team are just, in the moment and prepared for the game tomorrow night. How do you juggle the two, like the goal in mind in terms of the big picture, but also the goal in mind in terms of what's right in front of you?
I don't know. That's a difficult one. I know everyone's watching and they should be watching because then they're interested and they actually know what's going on. But if it gets distracting on your play, then it's an issue. And it's just as a coach, you just have to remind players of what we are doing. And we can only control what we can control. And we necessarily can't control who's LA's playing and necessarily the opposition that LA's playing, if they put in their backup goalie or not. So ultimately, it just comes down to what we're doing and putting ourselves in the best position to win a game, but also building our game so it's better. So when we are in the playoffs, we are playing well.
Well, it's a big one tomorrow night. It's going to be a fun game. Enjoy it. Good luck tomorrow night. Good luck down the stretch. Really appreciate you doing this. Thank you, Kris.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You got it. There's Kris Knoblauch. Two guys from Alberta on at the same time, Strud.
Yeah, it's just what Ontario wants, right? And what they need
exactly
in their lives.
For.
Double injection.
Yeah.
He's been a good coach for the Oilers. Very calm. I appreciate that as a player. Sometimes when a coach gets worked up on the bench, I think it unsettles the players. And so he's calm, reiterating what's important. Hey, guys, let's keep doing this. And I think that's his way, a steady hand and reassurance. This is how we do it. This is how we do it.
Yeah. Well, I've been so impressed and at times surprised by how composed he is. Knobloch, big wins, big losses, big news, and he is just even keel all the time. In terms of and very detailed in terms of his answers. Analytical, but also even the way he just answered that last question. He's like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you handle that because I kind of want my players to feel like they're invested in it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, there's only so much I can do. You got to trust. These are pro athletes. You were one, Strud. Coaches are not calling you, hey, are you reading the report at home? Did you have your pregame nap? These are grown men. They got to do it themselves. There's only so much a coach can do, to put you on the right path. The players have got to take care of a lot of that themselves in terms of what they're thinking, what they're tracking, what they're doing with their free time. And I found that kind of interesting that he didn't try to come up with some cliched BS answer. He's like, honestly, I kind of like that they're tracking what's up with LA, but we have to understand there's nothing we can do about what's going on with LA. We got to play our game, try to win games, and see what happens when the dust settles.
And I think that's what I like about him. He's fairly honest with his answers, right? He just says what he thinks and what he knows.
Yeah.
And I think as a player, I always wanted the truth, right? Good, bad. Don't lie to me. Just tell me the truth. And I think that was whether it was for me, the team, or what was going on. And I feel like he does that. But don't forget, they have a pretty strong leadership group in there that has been through it, and they're pushing each other. Hey, guys, we're getting rest. We're getting sleep. We're doing whatever. We're going to have a practice, whatever it is. So they understand what's required to get that far. Now they just got to, at some point, hopefully get over the edge.
Absolutely. All right, we got Leafs Flyers tonight. We'll get to that. We got a big one in Winnipeg. Capitals Jets tonight. The Habs are in Buffalo. Ottawa's in Buffalo. The Habs are playing St. Louis tonight. So a bunch of big games in terms of Canadian content and wild card chases. St. Louis is in a really good spot. They've won 6 in a row. And they got the Habs tonight, and the Habs obviously are trying to hold on to that second wild card tonight. So we'll continue to touch on that. We'll get to our best bets. We'll get to some more Strud or Dud. We got a lot cooking this hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel. We'll get to our best bets later in the hour. Mix in a few more Strud or Duds here. The oven is still piping hot. Everyone's ready to rock. We'll get to a few more here. And tonight, really, it's about returns, right? Or playing your former team. You got Jimmy Butler and the Warriors down in Miami. And I'm curious, like, because the Heat have been awful, right? Like, they've been terrible. And since Butler demanded out, I think he's gonna hear it tonight. Like, I think they'll be on him. Because he got to an NBA Finals with them and he played very well, but he didn't win. And then he demanded out. And the way he went out, I don't think went over too well for people in Miami. So I think Butler's going to hear it tonight. Dylan Cousins back in Buffalo tonight. I don't see why they would boo him. Do you have any reason to boo Dylan Cousins if you're an Ottawa Senator tonight? Or a Buffalo Sabre fan tonight, Strud?
I don't think so. I mean, I think he gets the video and thanking him. I mean, he wasn't the problem there. He was trying to get, he's a young player trying to find his game. And also, he didn't ask for a trade. He was in a trade. You hope it works out for both teams, and I think it has a chance to, although I'd say the short term so far, it's helping Ottawa way more than it's helping the Sabres. Big time. I mean, isn't this just terrifying if you're a Sabre fan that Cousins he's gonna do what Reinhart did and O'Reilly and he's gonna, maybe not Jack Eichel, I don't think he's gonna get to that level, but he's just gonna be a great number 2 center and he's gonna put up like 65, 70 points a year and he's gonna get his bite back and throw hits and exactly. I mean, it's just a nightmare if you're a Buffalo Sabre fan. And if you're Ottawa, you love it because now you have 2 players that are big that play like that. Now Kachuk is
different
animal,
different
and I'm not suggesting Cousins at that level, but he doesn't have to be because you have the ringleader. Now you have someone else doing it on another line or even maybe at times they'll play together, but you understand the point. There's more than one guy, and it's nothing worse when you're by yourself. Now Brady looks around and is like, well, there's another guy doing here. Then maybe someone else finds it. And then you add another piece here, and all of a sudden you have multiple guys that are being, engaging on the other team and the oldest cliche in the book, being hard to play against.
Absolutely. And Ottawa and Buffalo tonight. And you got the Flyers in town playing the Leafs, and Scott Laughton going up against his only team, the only team he knows. He was in Philly for a long time, and he struggled. Like, he's really had his issues here. Berube, I don't think the first impression has gone over well. He's moved him up and down the lineup a little bit. He's going to be on the third line, likely on the wing with Domi and Robertson tonight. But it's interesting. He's in town, and he's staying in a hotel, and I guess the Flyers are staying in his hotel, and he's like a door or two down from where Tortorella was last night. And here's what John Tortorella had to say at the morning skate about that experience at the hotel today.
I saw staff throughout. I was just in the hotel, so they're in the same hotel. Got a room pretty close to Torts.
Laughton said his hotel room's close to yours.
He's next to me. I said, stay in your room, I'll stay in mine. I don't even want to see you.
Yeah, so that was Laughton first and then Tortorella. Did you would have had experiences like that when you got dealt in the league where you had to stay in a hotel for a long time, Strud?
Yeah, it's, and that's not awful. It's not the best, but it's not awful. It was, I think it'd be better when you moved into like kind of like what they call short-term living. You live there from month to month and maybe have a sitting room, because the hotel, you can just lay in your bed. That's it. But I've played, I remember that it's the first time you get traded or you sign somewhere else. That's really hard. After you do it once, it gets easier and easier. But I think this is going to be a really hard game for him, especially at home. He's maybe not feeling he's playing his best right now. He wants to, show that Phil made a mistake. He wants to show the Leafs that did it right. Like, I think this game could go one of two ways for him. Go really well, or it could be a really tough one for him. It's really tough playing your former team, because your whole team everyone's going to be chirping you in warm up. Hey, whatever, like all your little inside jokes and stuff.
Yeah. And
then you actually get to it and you've got to play. It's tough, man. I remember the first time I was with them for a short time, but when I went from Vancouver to Chicago, I was so nervous, and I actually, one of my first shifts, I passed it to my old D partner.
No.
Like, it was tape to tape though. It was on the tape, and I came off, and the coach is like, "Are you okay now?" I'm like, "Yes." And then I kind of found my groove, but I wasn't ready. I didn't know how hard it's going to be, and I wasn't ready for it emotionally, and no one told me, right? It's really hard, man. So Leafs fans, take it easy on the big guy
Yeah,
tonight.
I know, man. I feel for him because he's a local guy. You know, he's all he knows is Philly, and then he gets dealt, and he comes home, which is an experience that can go one of two ways. Really, it can be a lightning rod of positivity, and you hit the ground running, and the whole city just rallies around you. And that would be true of any hometown kid. A kid from Edmonton that gets traded there, he takes off. It would be the same thing. Yeah. But the other road is so difficult to get out from underneath, and that's the one he's on right now, where he's played a number of games, he doesn't have a point, Strud. Like, no points. He had a fight. Yeah. You know, a couple of hits here or there. He's moving up and down the lineup. I honestly think the way he's playing, like, he's closing in on a possible healthy scratch. Like, I don't think that's outlandish to suggest. Like, Holmberg is a healthy tonight. Berube loves Holmberg. You know why? I'm not quite certain. Like, he's a big body that he feels is predictable, but he doesn't have a ton of skill. He's moved up and down the lineup as well. But Berube has loved Holmberg since day one. Day one of camp, he's been a Holmberg guy. Him making him a healthy scratch tonight, that would be uncomfortable for him. And Berube, like, because they want Laughton, they acquired Laughton, they've got him on term. He's here for another year. They paid a premium to get him. They realize they got him for a reason. You got to prop him up. There's also the GM element to this too, right? You don't want to embarrass the GM because Tree Living put his neck on the line for the guy. He went out and acquired him. So it's like everything, I'm sure, feels like he's just dragging uphill, and he's just trying to arrive and do something. And tonight, to your point, it's like that same fork in the road, but it's so clear because it's against your former team, and the media guys are going to be looking for you, and you're going to have to talk after the game because people in Philly want to talk to you, and people in Toronto, and you got to have a game. I'm pulling for the guy. Like, I hope he has a game tonight. You don't have to score. You don't have to fight. Just play well. Like, play 12 minutes tonight and be a positive player on the team, get a win, and then move on with your career.
You know, every season, some afternoon naps are very hard, and part of you wants you not to nap and just go right to the game. Others hope you just fall asleep and you sleep for 12 hours and miss the game. Like, it's really tough, and I think tonight could really be a turning point for him. But I played at home, and I was much older than he is, and I was, obviously been through a lot more than him just because of the age. Mm-hmm. But it's difficult. There's a lot of people pulling you in different directions. A lot of people want your attention, and you don't want to not just fail your friends and family. You don't want to fail the fans. So I hope he has a good game tonight because this could be the start, right? This could get him going. We know there's a better player than he's shown inside there, and the Leafs need him.
Yeah, they need him, exactly. Because he's a bottom six guy, and that is where they've got to figure it out, right? You asked MJ earlier today, like, what are the things they got to clean up or figure out over the next 12 games? One of them is who is on your third line? And the belief was when they acquired Laughton, he would be one of those guys. Yeah. Whether he's playing center or on the left wing, he was going to be one of those guys that can help you find some identity on that line. And if he's not going to do it, then it puts more pressure on the other guys. Like Max Domi can't carry a line. Like, Max isn't that kind of player. He can contribute to a line, and he's elevated his game since the trade deadline. I think he's been somewhat inspired by Laughton arriving because I think he looked at that as a bit of a challenge. Sure. Like, okay, Laughton's here to take my ice or take my role. I'm not doing that. And I think he's played much better. And Robertson's a guy, he's just trying to find his footing still in the league. And what happens if Pacioretty returns? What do you do with Yarncroke? Pontus Holmberg is a guy that the coach likes. Like, Scott Laughton is in a very unique situation, man. He's battling for minutes and a spot on this team.
It's tricky, and I'm sure that they've done this, but I always felt it was nice when, and not that I played a lot of forward, but you sit down and talk to a 2D man or 3 forward, say, this is what we want you to do. And I'm sure they've done it, but let's look at some stats we can get to. Can we get to X number of hits, time in zone, shots, maybe takeaways? Just don't even talk about goals. Don't even think about it. But this is what we want from you guys. And let's just see if we can get those targets. And, then individually, how are you going to contribute to the line? Well, I'm going to use my speed, or I'm going to get on the forecheck, whatever it is. And then it simplifies the game, and then you can meet some of those targets. Then the byproduct of doing all that right is, hopefully some goals or some offensive production, which they all probably are dying to do. So like I asked MJ about the identity of the line. I truly believe that you need to have an identity, and this is what we do. This is what we're trying to accomplish. Now, if you don't get it done and it takes, then you got a bit of a problem, but I still think it's fresh enough for him and his line mates to get this going and get that identity going.
It's very important. Berube spoke of it like day one, and he speaks on his experience in St. Louis, where it's, I need a third line I can trust, a third line with identity, and they have been seeking it out all season, and it does not appear to be any closer today than it was 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And to your point, are you based on speed? Are you based on size? Are you based on physicality? Are you based on defensive awareness? What are you? Because you kind of got to pick a lane. The other guys, the fourth line is simply energy. They know what they are.
Yeah.
They're not going to play a ton of minutes, don't get scored on, and get off the ice. That's kind of the nature of every fourth line in the league. Some are better than others, but it's the fourth line. I mean, you got to be reasonable in terms of what you're expecting.
100%.
And the top two lines are going to be expected to do what they're supposed to do. That third line it's really tricky, man, because you look at what Florida's got, you look at what Tampa's got. Like, they got Lundell down there in Florida. You've got Nick Paul, Bjorkstrand, maybe Yanni Gord down in Tampa. Like, they've got a third line, both Cooper and Maurice, that they feel very confident in. And Berube doesn't have that right now.
They can change momentum.
Yeah,
in the
they
game.
can.
So you get scored on. You don't. I mean, I get it. You want to put Matthews out or Tavares or Nylander or whatever line, but you want to be able to put another line out there. Say, guys, we need a shift. And you just say that as a coach, and every player knows what that means. That means we need to play in their zone, and we got to turn this momentum, right? And that's what you're looking for. So when he's talking about identity, he's like, guys, we need a shift. And we've seen teams have that. And you go back to Yanni Gord there, before he was traded away, that third line was a monster. Absolute monster for those guys. And we need a shift. Don't worry, we got it. It's not Kucherov, and not that he can't do it. It's not Stamkos, same thing, point, but we're putting these guys out because we know they can get it going, and they know their job. So there's ownership in that as a player, but there's responsibility as well, because I have to deliver. They're giving me this chance. So we might even start you a couple games. Like tonight, do you start that third line? Just to say, hey, we need a shift from you guys. You set the tone. Immediately. And I know when you're asked or tasked with setting the tone, that's a real serious thing, because not that you win or lose the game in the first shift, but you definitely get the boys off to the good start. And you come back and like, great shift. And you're all fired up. And then if you have a good shift, you put them out again, with it, even skip a line. Who cares?
Right.
Get him going again. And that's the coaching battle that coaches have, trying to figure out how to get someone going without them dragging your team down if they are in fact struggling.
Absolutely. All right, Strud or Dud? Let's rapid fire a few of these.
Yes.
Strud or Dud? Quinn Hughes is the most valuable player to his team on any Canadian team today. The most valuable player playing on a Canadian team. Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, that's a Strud. I mean, this guy, he's doing everything. When he's on the ice, it's just incredible. And when he's not, it's not quite the same. So talented, so much fun to watch. Yeah, I just off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone who's even close.
It's amazing, because I'm a Strud too, and like obviously Leon, who's not playing right now, or McDavid, or you think Matthews, or maybe you look at Brady Tkachuk in their pursuit, or Suzuki, or whatever. But I think it's Hughes. Like, the guy's playing 30 minutes a night. The reason they're in the hunt is because of him. Like, that's why they are even in conversation to make the playoffs, because of Quinn Hughes. He's been that good. He's that dominant. When he's on the ice, they are an elite team. Like, it says something about players. There's very few players where you can say that. Like, if that guy's on the ice, you're just no one can stop you. Like, you're going to be tipping the ice, and you're going to be moving in the right direction. And when he's off the ice, you're terrified. Yeah. And that's the story with Hughes and the Canucks. Like, when he's not on the ice, you can just Rick Tocchet's like, how do I get through these minutes, man? How do I get through minutes until I can get him back on the ice? Yeah, it is amazing, and there's so many great players in the country right now, like tons. So many with like between Edmonton, Winnipeg, like Connor Hellebuck would be in this conversation. Dustin Wolf's having a great year in Calgary, and obviously he's a big part of what they're doing, pushing towards the playoffs. Yet I think it's a Strud as well. I think Quinn Hughes is on an island in the country in terms of value right now. It could change a week from now, could change next year, of course. And if everyone's healthy, maybe it's a bit of a different story. But that's how well he's playing. And that's how much they need him because of the situation they're currently in. All right, Strud, let me test your Blue Jays stance on this, okay? Strud or Dud, the Blue Jays will only side both Bichette and Vladdy long-term if they make the playoffs. The only way Bichette and Guerrero will be Blue Jays long term is if the team makes the playoffs this year.
I'm going to say that's a dud. I think that, what if they have a couple injuries and it really hurts their team and they don't, so they just decide you're not making the playoffs then? You're not signing them both because of that? I think that's too strong a statement to make when there's so many wild cards available.
And that is something that could happen. I mean, you let's say you get 84, 85 wins, you just missed, but your rotation took a hit down the stretch and things got carried away. It's not like it would be a Bichette or Vladdy scene. And I guess I would dud it too. I think it's much more likely that one, if not both of them, are going to move. And if it's a disaster, I think everything's on the table for a colossal change in Toronto. Like if they finish with 74 wins again, there may be complete turnover, like top to bottom. They just need to reset the whole vision, which would include these two players, or at least one of them, in my opinion. But I think you bring up a good point why it's a dud, is that they're both in their prime. They're both going to be very good players, presuming health, for the next 5, 6, 7 years, which means even if you have a different vision, if you have a different executive team, whatever it is, whatever your excuse or whatever your explanation is to as why it went wrong or what you need to do to retool on the fly, these two can be a part of whatever that program is because of who they are, what they mean to the organization. Bo drafted, developed, Vladdy signed, developed. Both have been here for a decade. Both have played on the big club for 5, 6, 7 years and been big pieces of the marketing campaign. If they're going to win, it's because of these two guys. Like a lot of it still ties to the two of them. And I think that's, we're going to have Ross Atkins on tomorrow. Ross is going to join us at 4:20. So we have the GM of the Blue Jays coming on. We haven't caught up with Ross in a long time. So Ross will be on the show tomorrow. But you look at the American League East, it has taken hits. Like the Yankees have taken hits. The rotation, the biggest. Soto's not there anymore. Baltimore didn't really improve much over the offseason. The Red Sox, I think, are better, but I'll believe it when I see it, that some of these young guys are going to pounce and Bregman's going to fit in well. There's a pathway for the Jays. They got to have a good start, got to stay healthy, bullpen's got to be way better, but there's a pathway here, and if everything breaks their way, fans are fickle, man. Like, that's the nature of pro sports, right? Everyone's bent out of shape, and everything's awful, and it's dark, and I understand it. I get it. It was terrible last year. Horrible last year. But we'll see what comes of it in the future. We got some breaking news here. Adam Schefter tweeting out. This is perfect for you, Strud. You're going to love to hear this.
Oh, no.
Adam Schefter reporting that the New York Football Giants
don't say it.
And Russell Wilson have agreed on a 1-year deal worth upwards of $21 million.
Okay.
So are you okay with Russ taking his talents to New York and being a New York Giant?
I almost passed out. I thought you were going to say it was Aaron Rodgers.
You really don't like the idea of Rodgers being there. You would rather Russell Wilson over Aaron Rodgers?
So let me explain my stance.
Okay, please.
I feel that Aaron brings a lot of other things to a team that can be a distraction. Not that Russell Wilson's a picnic, but that's my concern. That's what happens. So it's a 1-year deal, and they just got Jameis Winston on a 2-year deal. So it's clear they're probably going to try to find someone to groom, later in the draft and for a 3 guy. Tommy Cutlets might be in trouble. So I like it because it's short term, but they have someone to hold the fort for now while they look for the next guy. Let's hope it's Archie Manning. Another 15 years of a Manning dynasty in New York would be. I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'd be so excited.
That would just be a phenomenal setup. But I think you raise a very good point because the Giants pick 3rd. This would suggest to me they're not taking Sanders. Like, they're not taking Shedeur Sanders. They're like, maybe they trade back. Maybe they're preparing for that. Like, someone wants to move up and take another quarterback because most people think Cam Ward's going first out of Miami. Likely Tennessee's going to take him. Maybe Sanders goes too. Maybe he goes to Cleveland with the 2nd pick. Maybe he's not going to be on the board. Maybe the Giants know that. But they've kind of shown their hand here, I would think, because you just signed Winston last week or whatever it was, a couple weeks ago, and now you've committed to Russ, and it's real money. I think that is in their. Who cares who's playing quarterback? If I'm the Giants, I'm tanking again for Arch Manning. That's I'm with you. I'm going 0-17 if I have to, and I'm hoping that he declares for the draft, comes out, and you take him immediately.
100%.
Obviously, he's going first overall. It'd be shocking if he didn't. If he doesn't go first overall, that means someone else came out of nowhere that is so amazing that, again, it's worth probably tanking for. But this also means Pittsburgh is likely moved on, and the Steelers are waiting for Rodgers, and I think that's going to happen. So, but Aaron's going to slow play it, and he'll be on a beach somewhere. And, it'll be so unnecessary the way he's going to build it up. But Russell Wilson, there you go. Let's ride. New York Football Giants. We'll come back with our best bets powered by FanDuel. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I've got a Leaf parlay paying plus money. Not a ton of plus money, but plus money. Leafs money line, Austin Matthews anytime goal scorer tonight, plus 136. It'll be plus money. The Leafs have got to bounce back. They weren't happy with themselves in Nashville. Philly is leaking serious oil. Got to get a win tonight. You're chasing the division before you head out to California. And Matthews has been he's been really good recently. And this just feels like one of those games. I could see him scoring first. I could see an early and often Matthews game tonight. So there's your SGP for the game tonight. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Live same-game parlays are now available for every NHL game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 19 plus, physically located in Ontario. All right, Struddy, a little Giants news on the way out. Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Tommy DeVito is your quarterback room in New York. Good luck with that.
Well, then we don't want luck. We want to lose. We're going for Archie. None of those guys will probably be on the team in 2 years.
That's very true.
So there you go. You're doing what you try to have someone to try to make it look good, competitive, but we're really trying to lose.
I love it.
Come on.
Dignified tank for Manning.
Yeah,
dignified tank. Very classy. Very, very classy. All right, Strud, good seeing you, man. We'll do it again later in the week.
Yeah, can't wait for it. Talk to you guys then. Thanks for having me.
There he is, Jason Strudwick. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m. We'll chat then.